I let my brother stay in my apartment while I was deployed overseas. He promised he'd keep it clean and safe. I came back to find my furniture gone, locks changed, and him saying, "I thought you'd die over there." I made other plans. I slept in my car that night. The next morning, I went to the leasing office, and what the manager showed me made me sit down on the floor. I don't even know where to start. Maybe with the simple fact that I trusted him. I trusted Nick because he was my brother. He wasn't perfect, never had been, but he was blood. And after everything I'd been through over there, the last thing I expected was to come back and get stabbed in the back by my own family. Before I left, I gave him my keys. Told him he could stay at my place while I was gone. I wasn't going to let him live in his car or bounce from friend to friend. He'd just gone through a rough divorce and was barely scraping by. I didn't even ask him for rent. Just one rule: I keep it clean and don't screw anything up. He looked me in the eye and promised. Said he'd take care of it like it was his own. Said he was grateful. Said he owed me. Fast forward 14 months. I flew in from Germany. I hadn't slept much in days. I still had sand in my boots and half my stuff stuck in a lost luggage claim. I didn't call ahead because I wanted it to be a surprise. I wanted to come home, sit on my couch, have a beer, and feel human again. But the second I saw the front door, something felt wrong. The locks were changed. It wasn't my key. Not even close. I knocked. I waited. Then Nick opened the door like I was some random stranger. He had this look on his face like he was annoyed. Like I was interrupting something. He leaned against the door frame and just said, "What?" I laughed, thinking he was joking. I said, "Dude, what's going on? Let me in." He didn't move. He just looked me up and down and said it. "I thought you'd die over there." I made other plans. He said it like it was no big deal. Like he was talking about moving a car out of the driveway. I felt something snap inside me. I pushed past him into the apartment, but it was like walking into a stranger's place. None of my stuff was there. No couch, no TV, no dining table, not even my framed military photo. My recliner gone. My bookshelf with my old DVDs and video games gone. In its place was this ugly-ass gray sectional, some cheap wall art, and the smell of weed. I turned to him. "Where's my stuff?" He shrugged. "Sold it. You don't need it. You weren't coming back." I couldn't speak. I stood there stunned. I asked him to explain. He told me he lived here now. That he changed the lease. That it was his place. And then he said the words that burned into my brain: "If you don't leave, I'm calling the cops." I should have decked him right there. I didn't. I walked out. I stood in the parking lot holding my duffel bag, heart racing, trying not to lose it. That night, I slept in my car. In the parking lot of a grocery store a few blocks down. It was cold and I didn't care. I stared up at the ceiling of my Honda Civic and tried to understand how my own brother could do that to me. The next morning, I went to the leasing office. Carla, the property manager, had been there for years. She used to chat with me when I paid rent. She was the one who gave me the okay to have Nick stay temporarily. When I walked in, she looked up and smiled until she saw my face. I told her everything. I said I was deployed for over a year. That I'd let my brother stay there while I was gone. That I came home to find my locks changed and my stuff gone. She looked confused. She pulled up my file on her computer. Then her face changed. She clicked a few more times, then turned the screen toward me. There was a form on the screen. A lease transfer document. It had my name and signature. It said I agreed to remove myself from the lease and transfer the unit to my relative Nicholas. But I never signed it. I never even saw that paper before. Carla frowned. "This came in 6 months ago. With a letter from you saying you were moving permanently. We scanned it into the system. I asked to see the physical copy." She dug through a drawer and handed me a folder. There it was. A printed letter with my name typed on it, saying I was relocating indefinitely and no longer required the unit. It was signed in a sloppy, crooked version of my handwriting. I flipped to the lease transfer. Same forged signature. I stood up so fast my chair fell backward. I told her, "This is fake. I never signed this. I never sent that letter." Carla went pale. "Oh my God." I sat down again. This time hard. Everything caught up to me all at once. The jet lag. The betrayal. The fact that I didn't even have a bed to sleep in. Carla sat across from me. She asked if I wanted her to call the police. I said no, not yet. Because I knew something. Nick didn't know I had just found this out. He thought he was safe. He thought I was just some poor vet with nowhere to go. He had no idea I was about to pull every legal string, every bit of dirt, every ounce of energy left in my body to burn his little lie to the ground. I wasn't just going to get my place back. I was going to make sure he regretted ever thinking I wouldn't come home. I didn't go back to my car that night. Carla, the leasing manager, looked like she didn't know what to do. She kept apologizing, but I wasn't mad at her. She believed the paperwork. Anyone would have. The signature looked close enough. The letter sounded official. She never had any reason to doubt it. But now she did. She told me to give her a day. Said she'd talk to the regional office and see what they could do. I left my phone number and walked out. No place to go. No clean clothes. No sleep. My head was spinning. I went to the VA clinic downtown and told them I had nowhere to stay. They got me a motel room voucher for 3 nights. It wasn't great, but it had a bed and a door I could lock. I sat in that room for hours just thinking, going over every phone call, every message I'd sent Nick while I was overseas. He never mentioned anything about changing the lease. He never said a word about selling my stuff. All he ever said was, "Everything's good here." Lies. That night I made a list. Names, people I'd help, favors I'd done. Old friends, people in my unit, a couple of lawyers I met through my dad's friend back home. I started making calls. The first twist came the next day. Carla called me. She sounded nervous. "Hey, there's something you should know." I talked to corporate. They pulled the security footage from when the lease change was turned in. I waited. She said the person who dropped off the paperwork wasn't you. It was your brother. And he brought some woman with him. They were both high as hell. I can send you the footage. She emailed it to me. It was grainy but clear enough. Nick walked into the office in sweatpants and a beanie. The woman with him was wearing sunglasses inside, giggling the whole time. He handed something to the receptionist. That was all the proof I needed. Fraud. Lease fraud. Impersonation. Illegal eviction. Theft. Identity abuse. And it got worse. I reached out to one of my buddies, Jason. He did some PI work on the side. I asked him to dig into my brother. I told him I'd pay. He called me 2 days later. "Man," he said, "you sitting down?" Nick had been using my name, not just on the lease, on credit applications. He opened a furniture store credit card with my info, bought a new bed set, a 70-inch TV, a PS5, and even a goddamn fridge. Used my name and my social security number. Then he stopped paying after 2 months. My credit? Destroyed. Dropped 140 points while I was deployed. I felt sick. I sat there in the motel room staring at the wall, wondering how deep it went. I called the bank. Confirmed it. Called the store. Confirmed it. Called the credit bureaus. That was when I realized it wasn't just about getting revenge. I had to rebuild my entire life from the ground up, and he was walking around with his feet on my rug, watching TV on my dime. The next morning, I went to the police department. I filed a full report. Identity theft, fraud, unlawful eviction, forgery, theft. I handed them the lease form, the fake letter, the footage from Carla, and copies of the credit reports. They took it seriously. The detective Mitchell was a former Marine. He didn't waste time. "I hate people like this," he said. "Don't worry. We'll get him." Felt good to hear. But I knew the legal stuff would take time. And I wasn't a patient man anymore. So while the case built up, I made a second list. People Nick owed money to. I started calling around. Old friends, his ex-wife, guys he used to work with. One of them told me Nick had borrowed $5,000 from a guy named Tino, a street-level guy who didn't play around. That debt was still unpaid. I found Tino at a bar near Hilltop. I walked in, bought him a drink, sat across from him, and told him everything Nick had done. He listened. Then he said, "That's cold, man. Real cold." I handed him Nick's current phone number and address. I didn't say to do anything. Just gave it to him. "I think he owes you and me both," I said. Tino smiled. Now, I wasn't planning on anyone getting hurt. I'm not that guy. But I also knew Nick had pissed off a lot of people who didn't care about warnings or second chances. A week went by. The police opened an investigation. Carla got corporate lawyers involved. My lawyer friend filed paperwork to freeze any credit lines in my name. And I got a call from Detective Mitchell. We served a warrant on the unit. Your brother's out. He's being questioned. I drove straight to the building. Carla was waiting outside. She handed me a new set of keys. Welcome back, she said. I walked in and saw the mess. It wasn't my place anymore. The furniture was different. The kitchen was dirty. Cigarette burns on the counter. Carpet stained with something dark. But it was mine again. I just stood there in the middle of the living room. Alone. No couch. No TV. Just silence. And that silence felt good. Because I wasn't done yet. I didn't even unpack. I just stood there and looked around. The carpet was ruined. My bedroom closet was broken. There were burn marks on the windowsill, like someone had tried to put out a blunt and missed. My bathroom mirror was cracked, and the whole place smelled like weed, cheap cologne, and something else I couldn't place. Something rotten. I should have been happy to have my apartment back. But it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like someone had spit on it and laughed. And I couldn't stop thinking about everything Nick took from me. My stuff? Sold. My name? Used and trashed. My trust? Gone. And I was about to find out he wasn't finished yet. A few days later, I went to the bank to get a new debit card. My old one had been frozen due to the fraud case. While I was waiting, I asked the teller if she could look up any recent attempts to access my account. She pulled something up and looked surprised. Did you try to withdraw $5,000 last week? No, I said. She frowned. It looks like someone tried in person with a temporary ID at a branch in Lakewood. I froze. Nick. He wasn't just using my credit. He was trying to empty my savings. I asked the branch to send over the security footage. I got the call 2 days later. It was him. Same hoodie, same beanie. Standing there with a printed ID that had my name, my birthday, but his damn face. That's when I knew this wasn't just about money anymore. He had taken my identity. He was trying to become me. Live off my name. My record. My life. The next twist came from someone I didn't expect, Nick's ex-wife, Stephanie. She messaged me out of nowhere. I heard what happened. I'm sorry. I warned you he was like this. I asked her what she meant. She offered to talk. We met at a diner near the interstate. She showed up looking tired. She had 2 kids now. One of them wasn't even Nick's. She said he bailed on child support, skipped town once already, and even tried to file for unemployment under her name once. But then she dropped the real bomb. He's been telling people you're dead. I looked at her. What? He told his friends, his drug buddies, his landlord, everyone. Said his soldier brother died overseas. That he inherited your stuff. Even showed them a fake obituary he made. I asked if she had a copy. She sent it to me. It was a screenshot of a fake memorial post. My name. My photo. A bunch of fake comments about how I was a hero and gone too soon. All of it posted on some burner Facebook account Nick made. I couldn't even speak. I'd been walking around, alive, breathing, trying to rebuild my life, and meanwhile, my own brother had already declared me dead so he could keep collecting sympathy and handouts. He didn't just want my stuff. He wanted my death to benefit him. I forwarded everything to Detective Mitchell. He called me back an hour later, angry. We're charging him with additional fraud. And wire fraud. You'll probably be testifying. Good. But even that wasn't enough for me. I started my own game. I went back to Tino. I told him what Nick did. The fake obituary. The money. The stolen identity. Tino laughed and shook his head. That dude's asking for it. I didn't tell him to do anything. But a few nights later, I got a call from a number I didn't know. It was Nick. He was crying. Why are you doing this to me, man? I said I was sorry. I didn't say a word. You sent those guys after me? Still, I stayed quiet. I'm in a hospital, you psycho. I finally spoke. You stole my name, my money, my life. You made a fake death post. You made me sleep in my car after a war zone. He went quiet. Then he said, I'm your brother. No, I said. You're not. And I hung up. He survived whatever happened that night. I didn't ask questions. I didn't need to know. But now he knew one thing for sure. I was alive. And I wasn't going anywhere. And this was far from over. After I hung up on Nick that night, I sat in my apartment with the lights off, just listening to the city. Sirens in the distance. Wind pushing against the old windows. I stared at the walls he'd dirted, the broken blinds, the cracks in the tile. He'd taken everything I'd built and spit on it. But now I had something he never saw coming. Control. He was no longer ahead of me. He wasn't hiding in the shadows. I had the evidence. I had the law. I had friends. I had fire in my gut. He had nothing. And I wasn't finished. 3 weeks later, I testified against him. The courtroom was half full. Nick sat at the defendant's table in a cheap suit. His jaw bruised from whatever went down with Tino's people. His lawyer looked like he hadn't slept. I took the stand. Told them everything. The deployment. The forged lease. The stolen identity. The credit fraud. The fake obituary. I showed them the video of him trying to impersonate me at the bank. Then Carla, the leasing manager, testified. Then a credit bureau rep. Then Stephanie, his ex-wife, came in with printed Facebook screenshots and even bank statements he tried to fake. It was a parade of facts and shame. When it was over, the judge didn't even blink. 6 years. Felony fraud. Identity theft. Forgery. Grand theft. He was taken out of the courtroom in cuffs. He didn't look at me once. But it didn't stop there. The next 6 months were hard. Not gonna lie. I had to rebuild my credit from the bottom. I couldn't qualify for a loan. I couldn't get a new credit card. I had to file dozens of disputes with collections agencies. It took time. And patience. And a ton of paperwork. And truth is, I made mistakes too. I trusted someone who had proven over and over he couldn't be trusted. I ignored red flags. I gave second chances. I let guilt override common sense. So yeah, I paid for that. But I learned something important: never let someone borrow a future they didn't earn. And here's where the final twist came in. A year after Nick was locked up, I got a call from his public defender. She said Nick wanted to make amends. Wanted to talk. Said he was clean, remorseful, working in the prison woodshop, trying to change. I said no. I didn't need an apology. I didn't want words. But I did one better. I wrote a letter to the judge requesting all future restitution payments from Nick, court-ordered, be sent not to me but to a local veterans shelter that helped me when I had nowhere to go. They were the ones who gave me a motel room when I was sleeping in my car. They gave me socks, a bus pass, and a toothbrush. Let Nick's fake sympathy checks go there. The judge approved it. That was my closure. As for the apartment, I moved out. I saved up. Found a quieter place in Federal Way, a little outside Tacoma. 2-bedroom. I kept it simple. No flashy stuff. No open-door policies. No one gets a key but me. I still have the lease paperwork with Nick's fake signature in a drawer. Sometimes I look at it and shake my head. It's a reminder, not just of what he did, but of how close I came to losing everything, because I was too loyal to someone who wasn't loyal to me. Nick's still in prison. From what I hear, he's not doing great. I don't care. I stopped checking. I don't need revenge anymore. I got it. In full. He's wearing a jumpsuit with his last name printed on it. No fake names, no borrowed lives, no lies. And me? I'm alive. Really alive. And finally free.